So that was Belfast. And as I promised, we are joined now by the writer-director Ken Branagh, actors Jamie Dornan, Ciarán Hinds, Katrina Balfe, and Jude Hill. So, Ken, right off the bat, I want to ask you, I know a lot of people ask about why is it in black and white? Some even ask why so much Van Morrison? But I wanted to know why at this point in your career did you decide that this was the film you wanted to make, one that was so personal?
I found, Dominic, that after these 50 years, the story of what happened, not just to my family, but lots of families in a part of the world. Ciarán and I are both from North Belfast, that Jamie knows well, and Jude and Katrina know well. That disruption, that displacement, lots of families moving, a bigger displacement of people in one city in Europe, the biggest since the Second World War, was really a very traumatic event for the city. And I think for anybody who endured any part of it or experienced any part of it, and whether you stayed or whether you left or whether you lost people, which many people did, I think it couldn't help but be really a very sort of impactful moment. And I think it was really a story and an experience that was kind of burning a hole in my head, burning a hole in my heart. And I wanted to go back and try and understand better something which really had been haunting me, both the difficult and the good times in the 50 years subsequently, and in the introspection of the lockdown that we all began a couple of years ago. The sounds of Belfast just wanted to be heard.
Jamie and Katrina, obviously, for lack of a better way of putting it, you guys depict Ken's parents. And it's a very tumultuous time, not only in the street, but in the family, as I mentioned in the intro, because there's decisions being made about whether or not you're going to leave. Vancouver, Sydney, these are options. I wanted to hear from both of you, how did you find yourselves in these roles? And what I mean by that is going back to that time, going back to those particular characters and these two young boys who you're trying to find a better life for.
Well, I mean, so much of what, it was such a gift what was on the page. Ken wrote this really beautiful script that had so much compassion for what these two people were going through. I think you have the external stresses, obviously, of what's happening outside their front door and the sort of shift in the politics and the social fabric of their lives. But also, I think it was so beautiful how compassionately he wrote about the stresses of a marriage and what two people are going through under economic strain or the strain of a relationship. And to sort of the research, we were very lucky. I mean, at least for me, there's such a wealth of video from that time or newsreels from that time. There's testimonies of real people from those exact streets, from those exact days. And it was great, it was wonderful. It was such a good resource to be able to go back and just listen to the real voices of the women of that time and sort of be able to sort of infuse your performance with that.
Jamie, for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much obviously on the page, and that was constructed in just the telling of the story that was given to us through what Ken wrote that was, relatable to us in that, I'm from Belfast, Katrina's from, like a more northern part of a tiny island. We have a deep understanding of these people. We also have an understanding of, what it's like to be in a marriage and have to make difficult decisions. And I think it's within you also, if you're from that part of the world, that idea of leaving Ireland. People have been leaving Ireland for a very long time.
My family left 250 years ago.
There we go. And often for different reasons. My parents left 7 years into the conflict. They left Belfast for Canada for a couple of years. I know that wasn't an easy decision, but it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. So, that families are often having to make big decisions that to the betterment of the family and what makes sense for them, and having to wrestle with the right thing to do for the kids and everything. On a lesser scale with even my job and having to take my family away, sometimes I have an understanding of that. So I guess I could use that to fit into what Ma and Pa were going through.
One of the things Jamie and Katrina both mentioned it, and Ken did when we were speaking, is there's the drama of Belfast with the political drama, but there's the family drama, and then there's the family. And one thing that I found particularly moving about this, my family are of Irish descent and from the East End of London, and this was a beautiful depiction of working class life, a wonderful depiction. I have to say, I'm a little jealous, and I think I've told Ken this before, that I think my maternal grandmother might want to sue Dame Judy for ripping her off so well, my nan. Kieran, I wanted to talk to you about the drama that happens within the family, and the grandfather, Pa, and what he goes through, and the relationship between you and Jude, because it was so beautiful the way that was a multi-generational story. Can you give us a sense where you found some of the inspiration from that? And what was it like for the two of you? And Jude, I'd love you to jump in and tell us a little bit about that from your own point of view.
As Katrina pointed out, what was on the page, what came to us from day one, was something that was so deft and so beautifully constructed. In a way, we just had to slip into a place, Judy and myself, into these extraordinary, delicate characters that Ken obviously knew or had a feeling from his own grandparents. And he gave us the freedom just to find a way in. And the important thing was he whipped us into shape pretty quickly and painlessly, as I remember, to become a family, to become a unit between the four of us and with Jude as well. And from that, I think we were able to play very openly and honestly and find all those gorgeous little bits of humor inside the pain and the struggle of getting through life that those rather poverty-stricken people had to deal with on a daily basis. And what I thought was Ken, amazingly, I mean, what he gave these people were kind of just about surviving in a very basic way. The richness of their relationship through 50 years of marriage, he's woven it so beautifully. He's actually even managed to slip in a couple of quotes from Yeats, from the great poet W.B. Yeats. He's actually slipped them in there with such an ease that Pop just quotes a few lines, and you'd never particularly know that he'd actually gone highfalutin on you, the way I would. But he just slipped that out in the midst of a conversation. And it was moments like that we were able to just hang on to and play with a truth and an ease, and then to work with Judy, which was extraordinary. I mean, truly extraordinary knockout. And I think basically I was trying to hang on to follow her because she was or go against her because she was so fast, so quick, so brilliant. And I think our relationship was basically a kind of one of those solid relationships where he adores her now by this stage, and she just about tolerates him, and it's perfect.
Ken, I know you've done more than a few superhero movies, which there's some Easter eggs in this one, but you might want to consider a prequel to Belfast with Pa and Granny, because that's certainly a story I think a lot of us would like to hear more of. In that vein, I'd like to know, Jude, what was it like for you making this film?
Well, Belfast was my first ever film, and as soon as I met everyone on the set and I saw the set for the first time, something inside me just clicked, and I knew it was just right. And the thing that I was mesmerized by most was the first time that I met all of them, we did little rehearsals over all of the scenes and stuff. And as soon as they shouted action, they were into their character, and you wouldn't know that Kieran was Kieran, and he was a totally different character. And they're all such great actors, and yeah, we felt like a real family by the end of it, and we all had that special bond.
Well, you're a pretty great actor too, little guy. Ken, I wanted to know, how did you discover Jude?
Well, through Jude being a very patient candidate amongst 300 people who submitted their self-tapes from all over the island of Ireland, and after many rounds on Zoom with our casting directors, Lucy and Emily and Carla in Belfast, eventually we got to talk via Zoom, and then I got to go meet him and improvise with him and Lewis McCaskey, who ended up playing his brother Will. And one of the things I noticed about Jude, and I really noticed about Katrina, Kieran, Jamie, Judi Dench, it was really marked on this show, was the moment between, it was almost unnecessary to say action, in as much as the way they were speaking and the way they were reacting to each other really didn't change once you'd said action. Sometimes, I've been guilty of this plenty of times, you hear that word and suddenly the very natural way you were being, just a second before, is replaced by some sort of extra bit of extra naturalism, which you think is somehow acting, and the audience intuit, and it's just a little bit of artificiality. You don't mean it. I mean, it comes from a very good place. Here, I was sort of, my breath was taken away by and was thrilled, because indeed that's what we wanted. And you've got to be quite, it sounds like it might be rather a sort of lazy thing to do. In fact, it's a very brave thing to do, to stop yourself going into some kind of performance mode. Even the most beautiful and well hidden and, you know, articulated naturalistic performance. And I noticed it on day one. The very first time I saw it was when we shot on what we called a test day, but it was Jamie and Jude walking down a sort of wheat field, asking a big question from Jude, you know, Dad, are we going to leave Belfast? And Jamie had to just look and react. And it was so seamless from the way we'd been talking earlier on in the day that I was thrilled. I knew that we might have something special, because all of these actors were being brave enough and generous enough to really give of themselves with nothing in between.
You know, one of the things that I really admired about the script is the humor. Because there was a lot of it. And Kieran's mentioned it here too. Particularly the scene that really made me crack up in the theater was when Katrina writes back to the revenue department, pissed off that they haven't said thank you for all the bills being paid. Ken, was that from a real life experience?
I'm afraid it was, Dominic. And I said to, I do remember, I mean, it's hard to convey my father's reaction when he understood what had gone on. It was a kind of an astonishment on a kind of galactic scale that even a 9-year-old could understand was something that he really did think you should have done, and that, or that it was helpful. Cue the destruction of much crockery.
Now, perfectly reasonable. I mean, of course we would want to thank you.
Katrina, do you write any of those letters in real life to the revenue department?
Constantly.
Well, I have a couple I would like you to pen for me, if you don't mind.
Mine are more, though, I'm very sorry I'm late.